From the Frederick Keys to the Flying Cows, from college courts to Friday night lights, and from the big leagues of local sports to the little leagues where it all begins. This is Frederick Sports, hosted by longtime broadcaster and sports executive John Hunt, bringing over 40 years of play-by-play, insight, and local sports experience to the mic. Frederick Sports starts now.
Is it really Friday? Is it, or are they just kidding with us? No, it's Friday. We are ready to get this thing underway. Studio 401 is the place. My name is John Hunt, and you have found Frederick Sports on the Everything Frederick Live Network as we continue to add podcasts and shows and other interesting things, plus some great events going on next week, which we're going to tell you about a little bit later on in the show. If you are a high school coach especially, because again, we are in practice time. We are just a few weeks away from starting games for the fall season. And if you are the coach or the athletic director of one of the teams here in Frederick County, we would love to hear from you and have you join us on the show. Talk about how your kids are doing. You know, we're going to start a high school scoreboard update each and every day on the show as well. So that's going to be something interesting coming your way in September. Again, we've got to get to that point where they've started playing the games, but it's not just going to be high school football. We're going to cover everything, all the different sports. If we can get a score on it, we are going to report it. And I know that you can go to the county website and get updates on the athletic scores around the region. Remember, as they said in Greece, if you can't be an athlete, be an athletic supporter. All right, let's get underway on your Friday. We have some cool stuff going on in the very near future. That's NFL football. That's college football. We haven't got a chance to talk about that very much since we started the show because, you know, we're in the midst of baseball season and soccer and World Cup happened and some other crazy stuff like that. And it was all cool. And we're going to talk about some baseball in a little bit. But today we're going to kick off the show. You know, I saw a local DC local host talking about whether or not this is a must-win year for Mike Locksley at the University of Maryland. And I think it is. I think this guy finds ways to win anything outside the conference. Mike Locksley is a good man. You know, he comes from a very vaunted background. He got to coach under, Nick Saban at Alabama is probably the biggest coach that he ever coached under. He's got 18 years total at the University of Maryland, some as a line coach, some as an offensive coordinator. And since 2018, he has been the head coach at the University of Maryland. He's a D.C. native. And from 2016 to 2018, he was the Alabama offensive coordinator, again, under Nick Saban. So, you know, his pedigree is awesome. He is, you know, top line when it comes to his experience. But Maryland, since moving to the Big Ten, especially in football, has struggled mightily to win in the conference. And there are some tough teams in the conference. And the reason why he's got to win this year or else kind of thing is because $13 million will be his contract next year if he doesn't win now. Okay, so that's how this thing is going to work for Mike Locksley. You know, when you have a guy who finds a way to, you know, win the non-conference games, to win the games against the smaller schools, those kind of things, that's easy, okay? There are a lot of people who can win those games, but Mike Locksley needs to find ways to win in the Big Ten. Now, here's the deal. The last couple of years, Maryland has started off 4-0, 5-0, 5-1, and not finding ways to win once they get to conference play. Now, I get that, you know, you normally in the Big Ten now, you have to play University of Washington, Oregon, Michigan State, UCLA, USC, and of course, you got to play Ohio State on the regular. Now, since there are so many teams in the Big Ten now, not every team is having to play each other every year. Yes, there will still be some of your traditional rivalries like Maryland, Penn State. And when they were in the ACC, it was Maryland, Virginia. Those kind of games will still be put in as often as possible. But, this is a year where Maryland, looking at the schedule, they do not have to play Washington, Oregon, Michigan, or Michigan State. This is a year that they need to step up in the conference, period. There can't be any more excuses. You look at the lineup schedule-wise, they start off Saturday, September 5th. And by the way, Maryland usually starts off their season against, Sacred Sisters of the Mary Virgin. Those are the schools they start off playing at the beginning of the season usually. Not, top line competition. You'll have schools like Ohio State Ohio State likes to cheat. So they'll start off with, the same kind of schools. But a lot of schools, University of Miami, who I'm not a fan of, but they'll usually start off with somebody like Notre Dame or Michigan, or, they'll start off with a big name school to get things underway. Florida State, not a fan there either, but same thing for those guys. Notre Dame, they'll start off usually with a big name game. Georgia Tech, there are a lot of schools that will not have a problem facing the powerhouses at the beginning of the season. But Maryland, this year it's a little tougher for them. Hampton starts off the season. I mean, that should be a 63-3 win for the University of Maryland. And if it's not, you're already starting to question the season. And it's at home. And then September 12th, they go to UConn. Now, UConn, University of Connecticut, greatly known for basketball, but UConn has improved in football. That will be a game that maybe challenges Maryland a little bit. And then at home against Virginia Tech. Okay, two of those three games are the toughest 2 of 3 to start a season that Maryland has had in probably 10 years. Again, usually Maryland will start off 3, 4, 5-0 because of the schedule they play. But then when they get in the conference, they'll be under 500 for the rest of the year. They'll sneak into a minor bowl game, a bowl game that doesn't matter in the national championship series. This is a year where Maryland has an opportunity, looking at the schedule, to win 10 games, 9 or 10. And they need to do it, I think, to save Mike Loxley's job, unless there's some kind of major injury bug. Now, looking at the rest of the schedule, after Virginia Tech, they get UCLA at home. UCLA, an offensive powerhouse. However, that could be, with Maryland's offensive situation and Malik Washington at quarterback, that could very well be a 55-54 game. And a fun one to watch, and it's at the University of Maryland. Saturday, October 3rd, they play at Nebraska. Now, that is one of those middle games, those mid-conference games that they should win if they want to get to the next level. They have to be able to beat teams like Illinois, Wisconsin, Rutgers on the regular basis. Okay, so they get Nebraska in Nebraska. That is a game that kind of proves if Maryland is going to be there at the end of the year or not for the University of Maryland. Okay, so now you're halfway through the season, and then comes October 10th, Ohio State, at Ohio State. Okay, I get that one. What we need for Maryland not to do is lose 63-0. All right, again, I am definitely not a fan of the Buckeyes. Despise Ohio State, okay? Because they're one of those teams. It's not that they just find a way to get the great prospects. They find ways to break the rules without getting caught. And they've had some coaches who have gotten caught, but not until after they were gone, and so nothing happened to the university. So, okay, so Maryland could be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-1 to start the season, which would be normal. But again, they've got to beat Nebraska. They got to beat Virginia Tech. They got to beat UConn. Winnable games, supposedly, for this Maryland team. And then they get Rutgers at home. Again, that should be a win. Homecoming is against Illinois at home. Again, that's one of those games that Maryland seems to trip up on in the conference. So Illinois at home on homecoming, got to win that game. And then they head to Purdue. Purdue has not played well for a few years. Again, it's a road game, but if you want to show that you want to play at the national championship level, you have to win that game. Wisconsin at home, again, a grinded out kind of game, you have to win. USC at USC, that's going to be a tough game, 100%. And then they end with the traditional rival, Penn State. And I'm always torn in that game because my daughter graduated Penn State, and I love to watch the Nittany Lions. This one's at Maryland. For me, and James Franklin, I thought was a good coach, but he just couldn't win the big game. He'd go get you 10 wins, 11 wins every year, and he'd get a quarterback injured and stuff would happen. And he always tried to raise good men. Plus, he took over a program that was a mess. James Franklin was also the offensive coordinator at the University of Maryland, who was supposed to get the job that they gave to Mike Locksley. He had been the heir apparent when the previous coach left and was supposed to, Turgeon, I think it was. He was supposed to be the guy who got the job at the University of Maryland. And it would have been great for the Maryland program. It would have been amazing for the Maryland program had he taken the job. He already would have known recruits. He would have already been strong in the region. I mean, getting local recruits, Maryland doesn't seem to have as much of a problem getting the DC and Baltimore area recruits anymore because their facilities down in College Park have improved so drastically. The stadium has improved. They've got that, and it literally is 100-foot video screen behind the Maryland students. I mean, it's a fun place to watch a game when Maryland is winning. But you can go to a game against Purdue in the middle of the winter and the stadium won't even be half full. And that's sad for a school with the old school tradition as the University of Maryland, with the facilities that the University of Maryland has down in College Park. I definitely want to go see some Maryland games this year. I want to see it up close and bring you back the reports here to Frederick Sports. I am going to watch them early in the season to see how they do. Now, I think a quarterback you need to watch, if you like that Jalen, type quarterback in Washington, if you like that kind of quarterback, that running and throwing quarterback. Now, this guy can stay in the pocket better than a lot of these running quarterbacks that we've seen lately. But when he needs to, he can break out and run and use his speed and break off a 30-yard run and then get out of bounds in time, after he's gotten the first down. That's what a running quarterback has to be able to do. If it's 3rd and 3 and the receivers are covered, he'll go get you the 3 yards, which I think is very important for any quarterback, fast or slow. Just a general pocket quarterback, a guy like Joe Burrow or somebody like that, you have to be able on 3rd and 3 to get the 3. If you don't have a receiver open, a running back hasn't broken out, you got to go get it yourself. They got to count on you to run straight ahead or around the outside for 3 yards. Okay, that is needed. Malik Washington is that kind of guy. He's got a year under his belt. Last year as a freshman, a true freshman, by the way, he was not a redshirt freshman. He didn't sit for a year. There were no grade issues. Malik Washington is a good kid. He came from Archbishop Spalding in Glen Burnie. I mean, the kid knows his stuff when it comes to being on a football field. And Mike Locksley worked with him even in high school to kind of get him ready for his time at the University of Maryland. And last year, one of the greatest freshman years in Maryland history. 273 completions. He almost had 3,000 yards, 2,963 yards passing, and 17 touchdowns passing and a few running as well. Again, if you're inside the 10 and you got everybody covered, that quarterback needs to go get you the touchdown. Can't be afraid, okay? And he's gained some weight too, and he's a tall kid. So there are no physical issues for Malik Washington. None of those things that you should have to worry about. And in his last game, he threw for 459 yards against Michigan State at Michigan State in the cold. And that was the biggest true freshman game in history of the University of Maryland. Okay. He threw for 200 yards in 11 out of 12 games, which only 4 true freshmen in Maryland history have ever done. So it really comes down, if Malik Washington does the job, and sure, the league is going to adjust to what they saw last year. But So should Mike Locksley. They should have different packages in the game for Malik Washington to use than they ran last year. You know, running back situation at Maryland is good. They have some guys that can go break off 3, 4, 5 yards. You can grind the ball down the field and then throw when you need to. And you can also, with Malik, you can throw on first down with fast wide receivers. Those are things that are pretty important if you want to win. And looking at Maryland's schedule, they have an opportunity this year. Again, yes, they get Ohio State. Yes, they get Penn State. Penn State's down. They didn't have a great year last year. They will be better this year. There's no question Penn State will be better than they were last year. And they don't get Penn State till the very last game of the season. My hope for both schools is that game means something. That, the winner gets a shot at a national championship playoff spot. That would be awesome for Maryland football and for Penn State football if that were to happen. Again, this year, Maryland does not have big powerhouses, Washington, Oregon, Michigan, and Michigan State on their schedule. So this schedule, some would say cupcake. Now, nobody's saying that Nebraska and Wisconsin are going to be lay-down games. I mean, they're tough teams, and you got to play at Big Red. You got to play at Nebraska. And that's in October, so it shouldn't be that cold yet. We shouldn't be dealing with snow at that time. And by the way, there is a positive for Maryland. And I think it's a backhanded compliment or positive for Maryland. They have the nation's leading non-conference winning streak of all the teams in college football, 18 games. They haven't lost a non-conference, but that's because they play NIU. That's because they play Hampton. That's because they play Towson. No knocking Towson at the level of football that Towson is at, but Towson shouldn't even be anywhere in the ballpark with the University of Maryland. Playing Salisbury, playing University of Maryland Eastern Shore. Those are definitely games that Maryland should dominate. So to say, okay, Maryland has an 18-game non-conference winning streak, I don't know that that is good as it sounds. Now, you come out of this year and you beat UConn and Virginia Tech in the non-conference. Now you can start to say, okay, and Hampton, of course. And then you say, okay, it's 21 games, and they beat UConn and they beat Virginia Tech. That would be adding something to the book. All right, that would be something important for the University of Maryland to say, okay, we beat Virginia Tech at home. And Maryland fans, I think if you don't get tickets, Virginia Tech fans are going to buy them up. There are going to be a lot of Virginia Tech fans at that game. The Maryland student section needs to be loud and proud that day, and make it fun. Make it loud. When you go to a game at Virginia Tech, they're playing Enter Sandman, and it's crazy when they come in the stadium and all that mess. In College Park, they need to make it like that. Take it to the next level, fans, and let's make it fun for Maryland football this year. But again, looking at this schedule, maximum, to be in the national championship discussion, it's maximum 2 losses for the University of Maryland. And if those losses come in close games to Ohio State and maybe Penn State, or Ohio State and maybe USC, they've got to upset someone. USC, Ohio State, or Penn State, they have to win to be in the national championship discussion if they sweep the rest of the games. They've got to win at least one of those 3 to be even thought about in the national championship discussion. And Maryland even being in that discussion is a huge step forward, at which point you've got to give Mike Locksley the $13 million next year, period. If he does that. But if Maryland comes out of this year 7-5 or 6-6 and just squeaking into the, Detroit Motor Bowl, or the, even though it's fun to play on the Smurf turf, the Idaho Potatoes Bowl, if that's the kind of bowl game that the University of Maryland gets in, the Independence Bowl. Sure, they have great history, but if they're not playing in a major bowl game on January 1st or for the national championship, sometimes those aren't exactly on January 1st anymore. If they're not playing in one of those kind of bowl games, I think it's a unsuccessful season for the University of Maryland. That's what it's going to take. You got to win 10 games, period, if you want your $13 million. That's what I would tell him right now, too. I'm like, yep, we'll give you the $13 million. You got to win 10 games, period. That's where I think the University of Maryland is. All right, and in other football, before we go to break, in the NFL tonight, we get pro football back. There's only 3 exhibition games. This is an exhibition. This isn't soccer, so it's not a friendly, because in football, they call it a friendly. In the NFL, they call it an exhibition game. So it's Miami at Washington. Miami and Washington have been scrimmaging against each other for a couple of days this week before this game. So they kind of already know what they're going to do. The first game of the exhibition season really is to see some guys deeper on the roster. It isn't to worry about what Jaden's going to do, or some of these other guys. It is all, and, the frontline wide receivers, they don't want any of those guys getting hurt in the first game of the exhibition season. So you might see one series. So if you miss the beginning of the game, you miss the kickoff, you might miss the starters playing. It might be one series and done. And they come out of the game so they don't get hurt. And then they'll play maybe half in game 2 of the exhibition season and maybe 3 quarters, maybe into the third quarter of the third game of the exhibition season, depending on how well they're doing. Or depending on how much Washington needs to see guys are on the lower end of the totem pole, whether they're going to make the team or not. The guys on the end of the bench are just as important as the guys are starting in the exhibition season. And then tomorrow it's Philadelphia and Baltimore. Now, we did talk about a situation with LSU and Jalen arguing over the uniform number. And it has come up that the question was asked to Redskins' former quarterback, Joe Theismann, about another player wearing the number 7. And Joe Theismann said, that's not I know I'm in the Ring of Fame, but that's not my number. I don't own that number. The Washington football team owns that number. There's no reason I should complain about another player wearing a number that I used to wear, no matter how good I was on this team. Only one number probably should be retired from Redskins history. And I think, I don't know that it really should be, but I know that, the number 21 probably will never get worn by a Redskin again or a Washington football team player again. It just probably won't because of, everything that went into that. But, Theismann added his 2 cents by saying, I don't care if somebody else wears a number 7. And he's, he took the Redskins at the time to a Super Bowl. Just another thought for these young guys. All right, let's jump to a quick break. And we'll come back. We'll thank our sponsors and talk about some other things going on. And we'll get into baseball because we are in the heat of the pennant races. I'm John Hunt, and you're watching Frederick Sports.
Sponsored by A&S Construction is a local and award-winning woman and minority-owned business located right here in Frederick, servicing Frederick County and surrounding areas. A&S Construction specialize in roofing and siding, windows and gutters, and they can even build you a new patio or deck. Call 301-703-2157 or email info@ansconstruction.net. You can get $750 off any roof or siding replacement or $50 off any roof repairs. Just tell Sandra that Danny sent you.
Hot Fired Arts is Frederick's handmade, locally owned art studio where creativity meets community. Since 2016, they've offered hands-on art experiences for all ages, from pottery and fused glass to wet clay and canvas painting. Whether you're looking for a fun family outing, a date night, or a creative outlet, they make art accessible and enjoyable for all skill levels. Stop by and see them today in the Fairview Shopping Center on 7th Street, Frederick, or visit them online at hotfiredarts.com.
Frederick, if you're craving real Chicago-style flavor, Rosati's is bringing it. From their cheesy, loaded deep dish pizza to crispy tavern-style thin crust, every bite is packed with that classic Rosati's taste. And don't sleep on the steak and cheese sub. Hot, hearty, and seriously satisfying. Rosati's has been serving family recipes since 1964, and now you can get it right here in Frederick. Stop by 911 West 7th Street or order online at rosatispizza.com. Rosati's, keeping it real since 1964.
That's lots of good pizza. Thanks to Rosati's, by the way. We appreciate those guys being on board with us, as well as Hot Fired Arts over on 7th Street and Jerry Donald for Delegate. And we added a new one today, which we'll be talking about more next week, Peak Performance, a gym right over by the Pickle Park on Ballinger Creek, 355 Ballinger Creek. Make sure you stop over there and say hi and tell them you heard about it right here on Frederick Sports. A couple big things going on next week that we're going to talk about real quick before we get into baseball, or fun things. You can say they're big, not big, whatever you want. But Frederick Feud is pretty big in the community because we get the opportunity to help out some nonprofits. The crew at Good Morning Frederick, Danny and AJ, have put this together and have done a tremendous job. And the first round last month had 4 nonprofits up there trying to earn money for their charities. And fans from the audience got up there and earned a little bit more for them. I mean, what more can you do in the community, right? You're giving it directly back to the community. So we'd like to thank Danny and AJ and the crew at Good Morning Frederick for putting it together. Frederick Feud for charity, just like the television show. And the setup that Weiser Productions puts together, it really does. You walk in the bar and it looks like, I mean, it's a big open space in there. And it looks like the TV show. And of course, it's a lot of fun. So they do some trivia before we get underway, so some fans can win some prizes. And there's going to be all kinds of cool prizes there as well. And then, of course, the nonprofits battle each other head to head for the prize money. Local charities, friendly competition, and it is sponsored by your friends at Ken's Automotive and Transmission. That's Total Car Care at kenstrans.com. And of course, Middletown Valley Bank, another great sponsor. So come out and cheer for your favorite charity. That's next Tuesday, August 18th. It's going to be here before you know it. 5 o'clock is when it'll start. And, it'll end around 8 o'clock if everybody's having fun. Who knows? Maybe a little longer than that. And Rockwell Brewery is the place. It's the new version of Rockwell Brewery on 8411 Broadband Drive. Good food, good adult beverages as well. And your tickets are just $25 in advance. And I recommend getting them in advance. I know next week's a little bit crazy. You got schools restarting and kids' practices and things like that. But again, this is an opportunity to help out some great nonprofits that are local to us right here in Frederick. And then coming your way next Wednesday night, I've been looking forward to this for a little bit. I'm excited about working with our friends at Warehouse Cinemas because, they have the really cool seats that lean back, and Wednesdays are the day where tickets are just $8. All the food is $8 or less. And from what I understand, drinks, adult beverages are half price. Again, you got to be 21 to do that. But pretty good deal. And we're excited about working with them. And we're going to be able to do this for movies in the future as well. So we brought you the 35th anniversary celebration for Point Break. That's Wednesday, August 19th. There are 2 showings. There's one on Sunday, but we're not going to be at that showing. We will be at the showing on Wednesday, August 19th. And if you wear beach attire, we're going to hook you up with a Maryland scratch-off. It's that simple. Whatever beach attire you're comfortable with. Again, I don't know that anybody wants to see Mr. Joe Schmo in his banana hammock Speedo. I don't know that that's what we want. But if you're that comfortable and you want to get yourself a Maryland scratch-off, that might be a way to do it, okay? You might be a redneck. Anyways, it's going to be a lot of fun. And there's going to be T-shirts and other prizes. We're going to give away a $25 gift card for food as one of the grand prizes. It's going to be a really cool night. So come out and join us. And again, it is in 4K. It has been remastered. The photos and the pictures are better than ever. Keanu Reeves And let me see, Lori Petty's also in the movie, Patrick Swayze, and Gary Busey, when he wasn't quite as insane as he is right now. I mean, it was before The Matrix, it was before John Wick, but it was after, hey, bud, let's party. No, that's Fast Times at Ridgemont High. But anyways, it was after Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, as Keanu Reeves was starting to climb the ladder amongst Hollywood superstars. So he was kind of in the middle from where he is today as a Hollywood superstar. So again, a lot of fun. Wednesday, August 19th. There are, at least this morning when I checked, there were 3 single tickets left if you want to come watch the show with us, and 3 handicapped area, back row, handicap accessible seats available there as well. But that's it. That's all that's left. And again, they're only $8. Go to Warehouse Cinemas online, get your tickets. Or if you're going to another movie over the weekend at Warehouse, go ahead and get your tickets for those, because those are the last ones left. And it's going to be a fun night. We're going to have a good time with that. So anyways, come on out and join us on Wednesday next week. All right, we talked football a little bit, and we haven't really got a chance to spend a whole segment talking about football, the NFL style, and college football. We'll talk more about that. We're going to start breaking down the colleges that are in the region and the pro teams that are in the region as we get close to the regular season. But we kicked it off today with the University of Maryland and their football program. Last night in Major League Baseball, the Nationals played the Cubs, and they had a good game. They beat the Cubs 7-0. Cade Cavilli had a no-hitter going into the 7th inning. He finished 8 innings pitched, 1 hit, 10 strikeouts, and only 2 walks. A good game for Cavilli against the Cubs. They are 5 games, the Nationals, out of the wild card spot right now. They get the Mets tonight, so good news for the Nationals. I had a lot of fun watching Met games live last year when I was in Jersey. It was a short trip, and it was a lot of fun when the team I was the general manager of was on the road, and we didn't have to have them at home. After we did our normal grind of a work day, we'd go catch a Mets or a Yankees game. It was nice being that close to New York City, for sure. Absolutely, for sure. All right, the Orioles were off last night. They have 3 games against Tampa Bay. 7-10 is first pitch tonight. By the way, they're battling with Toronto, Cleveland, Texas, Detroit, Minnesota, Boston, and the Yankees for one of those 3 wild card spots. And that's insane that this late in the year, that many teams are still in the running for playoff spots. Usually by now, a bunch of teams are out. Over in the National League, again, it's the Nationals, St. Louis, Miami, Arizona, Philadelphia, San Diego, and the Cubs, all battling for 3 wild card spots. So it's still any one of those teams' games. All right, let's get to the minor leagues. Our own Frederick Keys. This is a battle of the class of the South Atlantic League right now. The Keys playing Bowling Green, and they did get a victory last night, 5-4. Another 10-inning game, back-to-back nights where the games went 10 innings. Night before last, it was Bowling Green. Last night, the Keys got the victory, 5-4. Tonight, let's pack the ballpark. It is Art in the Park night, so they have special jerseys, which they'll have auctions for, and the kids get a really cool bird. I'm trying to think how you even describe it. It's like a bird mascot, but I don't know if you're going to find a picture in there, because I think whoever was on the board yesterday was looking for that specific picture. But it is a giveaway for kids 13 and under, and they're going to get to paint it, paint the bobblehead, and then take it home with them. So that's kind of cool. If you're 13 and under, or if you're the parent of somebody who's 13 and under, you will be able to do that. There it says paint in the park, but there's no image on there. And that's kind of what they're doing. They're going to paint the bobblehead. Kids will paint the bobbleheads. So, yeah, they might get a little messy, but that's okay. That's part of being a kid, right? Take them out and show them a good time tonight. There are only this series and one more series left in the regular season to see these Frederick Keys players before they move up to higher levels of baseball. Tomorrow is Faith Night. You get Darryl Strawberry in the ballpark. Again, we've talked about this since we heard about it. And Darryl Strawberry had some struggles as a Met and a Yankee through his years. He's a great ball player, but off the field struggled. And he's going to tell his story, give his testimony, and show why you never, ever give up. Darryl Strawberry, again, Faith Night tomorrow over at the Keys game. You can check that out. And I'm not sure. I know as of yesterday, there were still a few of the meet and greet passes available. Again, go online, get the details and find out if there are any of those left. And you may get to meet him and get a couple of things autographed. I think the limit is 2 items and a photo is the deal if you're in the meet and greet for Darryl Strawberry. Sunday is Sunday Fun Day, and playoff tickets are on sale now. The Keys are guaranteed a playoff spot as they won the first half title. One more series left after Sunday. There's a away series, and then they come home to play Asheville for the final home series of the season before we get to the playoffs. And let's see here. Yeah, the playoffs coming your way the second week in September. Let's take a look at the Bay Sox. Reading beat the Red Sox, or Bay Sox, I should say, last night. Reading is the AA affiliate of the Philadelphia Phillies. They are the Fightin' Phillies. Anderson de los Santos hit a home run for the Bay Sox last night, but it wasn't enough as Reading got the victory. The Bay Sox are still in second place in the second half of the season. They did not win the first half, so they must win the second half title to make the playoffs, and they're in second. So they had the opportunity to do so. We're looking at 26 games left, and they're 5 games behind Erie. So it's not out of the realm of possibility, but it would be awesome if they could find their way into the playoffs as well. Aberdeen had their 6-game winning streak ended last night, 12-8 against Williamsport. Tonight, the Ironbirds head to West Virginia to play the Black Bears for a 3-game series, and they are leading in the second half. So Aberdeen Ironbirds have an opportunity to make the playoffs. And then the Hagerstown Boxcars in the Atlantic League, they went 10 innings and they beat the Charleston Dirty Birds 5-4 and 10-1 in the doubleheader yesterday. So they swept that doubleheader, and they are now 57-42 on the season. They won their first half title, and they are guaranteed a playoff spot as well. They're next at home on Tuesday, August 18th through Sunday, August 23rd. And it is big rivalry. Maryland, the Battle of Maryland, the Southern Maryland Blue Crabs, a team that I worked for 2008 through 2014 as an announcer on the field and in the broadcast booth. They will play them for a 6-game series in Hagerstown. You can count on the fact that I'm going to be at least at 1 or 2 of those games to root on Hagerstown. And Southern Maryland also has a bench coach who, had worked for me for another team, and it didn't go as well as everybody would have liked. Let's just leave it at that and be nice. All right. So anyways, Hagerstown at home next week, and is one of their final home series of the season against Southern Maryland. But it is to decide the battle of the Maryland Atlantic League teams. They have a little trophy that goes with it. So good luck, Hagerstown. And I have so many friends down in Southern Maryland. But we're covering Hagerstown here, so we're hoping for that to happen. And again, Hagerstown's already in the playoffs, and they could end up, because Southern Maryland's in the Southern Division, they could end up in the championship against each other, an all-Maryland championship. I don't know that that's ever happened. It would be fun to watch when we get toward the end of the season. So a lot starting to happen as we get closer and closer to the NFL and college football season. All the baseball teams, they are now looking at playoffs or not making the playoffs, depending on who they are. All of our teams have still a chance. Nationals, Orioles, Keys, Bay Sox, Aberdeen, and Hagerstown all have the opportunity to make it to the playoffs. That's not a bad way to end the year and get the NFL season started. And the NBA schedule was announced either yesterday or today. I know I've seen it pop up on my social media. We'll get into that a little bit more next week. But if you are looking to watch the newly, hopefully improved, as long as there's no injuries, Washington Wizards, that should be fun as well. And the WNBA team still playing well, driving toward a playoff spot, the Washington Mystics. So there you have it, a full-loaded sports show today here in Studio 401. Again, please remember all the other different podcasts. There are 15 different podcasts, some of them on the weekends, some of them once a week, some of them monthly. My 2 shows, both Frederick Sports and John's House, as well as Good Morning Frederick, Danny and AJ show. That one, they all come every day of the week, Monday through Friday, every weekday. I shouldn't say every day of the week, but Monday through Friday for sure. You can check out those shows. So lots of fun being had here. Thanks to Dougie, again, behind the board, covering on a Friday afternoon. everybody else is starting to close their laptops and think about what they're going to do all weekend long, I will be out grinding and visiting businesses and getting ready for Monday shows. And by the way, I didn't even mention this in the earlier show today we did, but it's hard to believe that this is episode number 50 of Frederick Sports already. And when you're doing a daily, they come faster than you would think. So again, thank you for being with me for the first 50 episodes, 100 total episodes between the two shows. Not too shabby for a guy that's never been in front of the camera. I've been behind a microphone for 40 plus years, but in front of a camera, not so much. But it's been a lot of fun. And we're going to continue grinding and bringing you shows each and every Monday through Friday right here at Studio 401. So thanks again to all of our sponsors, everybody who's getting involved. And again, if you would like to be part of the show, you have something going on in sports, especially with the high school seasons getting underway, you can hit me up directly at rockthewave13@gmail.com. Please like, subscribe below, put the little hearts, make your comments, do your things. Whether you agree or disagree with anything that I've said on the show, I'd love to hear from you. And again, you can hit me up directly at rockthewave13@gmail.com to get involved. Hope you have a great weekend. The weather looks like it's not going to be quite as warm. There might be some rain on and off, but that's all right. It is what it is, and we're going to grind right through it. Again, thank you for being part of it. My name is John Hunt. You are what you watch and what you listen to, and you've been watching Frederick Sports.
Thanks for watching Frederick Sports with John Hunt. From the pros to the colleges, the high schools, and the youth leagues that make Frederick Sports special, we're here to tell the stories behind the games, the teams, and the people who make it all happen. Make sure to like, share, and comment, and join us again next time for more Frederick Sports.
This episode is a proud production of the Everything Frederick Live Podcast Network, your home for Frederick's best podcasts, streaming daily on YouTube.